My mom, Sophia, brought me with her when she married into a wealthy family. My stepfather was kind and treated me like his own son, but Sophia would warn me, a man's affection for a little boy isn't always innocent. She deliberately made me keep my distance from him. My stepbrother was cheerful and treated me like a real brother, but Sophia would plant his personal clothes in my room. Then she'd stage a discovery, making him think I had dirty intentions, that I was trying to seduce him to secure my place in the family. My new grandparents were reasonable people who took pity on me, buying me clothes and gifts. Sophia would secretly destroy them, then tell my grandparents I'd done it myself because I thought their gifts were too cheap, turning their affection into disappointment. In my past life, I never understood why she was so obsessed with turning them all against me. Only after I died did I learn the truth. She wanted to be part of their world, and her baggage, was better off dead and out of the picture. Reborn, I didn't wait for her to drag me to the Walker estate with a fake smile. I told her I wanted to go into foster care. But this time, my new grandparents, brother, and stepfather all came looking for me. "Liam, are your things packed?" Sophia asked, not even looking up from the expensive lipstick she was applying in the mirror. "Be sharp when you meet the Walkers. Don't look like a charity case and embarrass me." The mirror showed a glamorous woman, every inch of her radiating the triumph of marrying into money. And behind her, my reflection, a pale, skinny kid in a washed-out t-shirt, looking like something life had already chewed up and spit out. The scene was identical to the day she took me to the Walker's estate in my first life. That was the day I took my first step into the hell she had so carefully designed for me. She didn't bring me into her new life out of love. She did it because my stepfather, David Walker, felt sorry for me and insisted on a clause in the prenup. I had to come, and he would treat me as his own child. Sophia couldn't refuse, so she held her nose and agreed. But in her heart, I was a blemish on her perfect new life, a constant, walking reminder of a past she was desperate to escape. So she did everything she could to make every last Walker despise me. First, my stepfather. David Walker was a true gentleman. He bought me new clothes and read me bedtime stories. Sophia would whisper in my ear, "A grown man being that nice to a little boy? He's up to no good. Stay away from him." I believed her and started avoiding David. I can still remember the hurt and confusion in his eyes. Next was my stepbrother, Ethan. He was a bright, outgoing guy who would take me to play basketball and let me use his limited edition gaming console. Sophia waited until I was out of my room, then stuffed one of Ethan's shirts under my pillow, only to accidentally lead Ethan to find it. After that, Ethan only ever looked at me with disgust. Even the kind Walker grandparents weren't safe from her schemes. A watch they bought me was secretly broken by Sophia, who then blamed me, claiming I'd smashed it because it wasn't expensive enough. And so I became the family pariah. It all ended on a rainy night when Sophia accidentally bumped into me at the top of the stairs. I tumbled down and broke my neck. She didn't even bother to fake concern. She knelt beside me and whispered, "Liam, you should have died long ago. Don't blame your mother for being cruel." As my spirit floated above, I watched her throw herself onto my body, wailing hysterically. I saw the Walkers, who had grown to dislike me, still look on with genuine sadness at my death. In that moment, I finally understood. She never wanted a son. I was just a piece of her past she was desperate to get rid of. Now, reborn, I was back on the very day we were supposed to leave for the Walker's house. "Did you hear me? What are you staring at?" Sophia snapped. I lifted my head, met her judgmental gaze, and spoke calmly. "I'm not going to the Walkers." The hand applying her lipstick froze. She looked at me as if I'd told the world's funniest joke. "What did you just say?" I said, "I'm not going with you to the Walker's house. I'm happy for you and Mr. Walker, but I don't want to get in the way of your new life." I already contacted Ms. Davis at Social Services to help me get into a group home. In my first life, I'd held on to the foolish hope that she might actually love me. This time, I just wanted to get as far away from her as possible. Her face went pale with rage. She stormed over and grabbed my arm, her grip so tight I thought the bone would snap. "Liam, have you lost your mind? A group home? You're my son. I have to take care of you," she hissed, her voice low and menacing. "I'm warning you, don't you dare pull any stunts, or you will be sorry." Pain brought tears to my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "You're the one who said the Walkers don't want baggage. I don't want to be a problem for you." Those were the words she used on me constantly in my first life. Now I was giving them right back to her. Her face flushed, then paled. She clearly never expected me to say that. She opened her mouth to argue, but the doorbell rang. "Who is it?" she barked. A calm but concerned voice came from the other side of the door. "Hello, we're from Social Services. We're here to see Liam." I pulled my arm free from Sophia's grasp and ran to open the door. Ms. Davis was standing there with two colleagues. Her eyes immediately fell on the red fingerprints on my arm, and her brow furrowed. Sophia's perfect mask snapped into place. She forced a warm smile. "Oh, Ms. Davis, please come in. Liam is just throwing a little tantrum. You know how kids can be." I ignored her and looked right at the social worker. "Ms. Davis, my mom is getting married again. I don't want to be in her way. I want to go into foster care." "Liam, what is the meaning of this?" Sophia shrieked, losing her composure. Ms. Davis was clearly a professional. She knelt down to my level and spoke softly. "Liam, can you tell me why you want to do that? Is your mother not treating you well?" Sophia stared at me, her eyes burning with a clear warning. I knew if I dared to say yes, the moment Ms. Davis was gone, she would make me suffer in ways that would make my first life look like a paradise. I looked down, nervously twisting the hem of my shirt, my voice barely a whisper. "No, Mommy's really good to me. It's my fault." I glanced up at Sophia for a split second before looking back at the floor, putting on my best impression of a child too scared to speak the truth. "I heard Mommy on the phone. She said the Walkers don't really like me. She's been fighting with Mr. Walker about it. I don't want to make things hard for her. I just want her to be happy with him." My thoughtful speech left the adult speechless. Ms. Davis looked at me with pure pity, while Sophia's face went through several shades of fury and panic. She wanted to argue, but I had framed it perfectly. Every word I said was in her defense. All she could do was force a tight smile and play along. "He's just such a sensitive boy. As if I would ever think he was a burden." "Ma'am," Ms. Davis said, standing up, her expression now serious. "A child's feelings are not to be taken lightly. Since you're forming a new family with Mr. Walker, his role in Liam's life needs to be absolutely clear. It's our duty to contact him and get his perspective on the situation." Sophia's smile completely collapsed. The last thing she wanted was for David Walker to get involved. She had painted a picture of me as a sweet, obedient boy who couldn't wait for his new family. My demanding to go into foster care shattered that image. How could she possibly explain this? "Ms. Davis, really, it's not necessary. This is just a misunderstanding, a private family matter." Ms. Davis ignored her, pulled out her phone, and made a call right there in front of us. "Hello, am I speaking with Mr. David Walker? This is Ms. Davis from Social Services." I could hear the confusion in Mr. Walker's polite voice on the other end as Ms. Davis quickly explained the situation. I could clearly hear his breathing stop for a second. "I'm on my way over," he said, his voice suddenly grim. When the call ended, the room was deathly silent. Sophia glared at me with a look that could kill. I just stared back, my expression blank. Less than 20 minutes later, David Walker arrived. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, a man who radiated class. He took in the tense scene, his brow furrowing. "David, you're here?" Sophia cried, instantly switching to a teary, fragile act. "It's all my fault. I didn't explain things properly to Liam, and now he's gotten these wild ideas." David didn't even look at her. He walked straight to me and knelt down so we were eye to eye. His expression wasn't angry, just filled with concern and confusion. "Liam, can you tell me what's going on?" His voice was so gentle, just like I remembered. In my first life, that gentleness had made me trust him, which in turn made me a target for Sophia. I sniffled, letting fat tears roll down my cheeks, but I didn't say a word. I just shook my head. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. My tears, my quiet refusal to speak, and the red marks still visible on my arm told a story all their own. David's expression grew grim. He turned and looked at Sophia. She flinched under his gaze, forcing a weak smile. I just got a little frustrated and grabbed his arm. That's all. David didn't ask any more questions. He took off his suit jacket and wrapped it around my small shoulders, covering me completely. Then he stood up and faced Ms. Davis and Sophia, his voice leaving no room for argument. "I'm taking the boy with me today. Liam is my legal stepson. The Walker family has a responsibility for his care, and we will not neglect it." He took my hand. His was large and warm, and I felt a sense of safety I hadn't felt in years. "Liam, let's go home." As Sophia stared in disbelief, I nodded. And for the first time, I walked willingly into the Walker family's life. In the Walkers' living room, Grandpa and Grandma Walker were there, along with my stepbrother, Ethan. They all looked surprised to see David walk in with just me, and no Sophia in sight. "David, what's going on? Where's Sophia?" Grandma Walker asked. David gave them a brief summary of what happened with Social Services, leaving out the part where Sophia grabbed me, just saying I was having a hard time adjusting. Even with his careful phrasing, the mood in the room shifted. "So this is Liam," Grandma Walker said, walking over and gently stroking my hair. "Don't you worry, son. This is your home now. Grandpa Walker nodded in agreement. A boy his age in foster care? Ridiculous. Only Ethan, the stepbrother I'd supposedly tried to seduce in my first life, remained on the couch. He lazily looked me over, his eyes a mixture of curiosity and contempt. I knew what he was thinking. I was just like my social climbing mother, another outsider trying to worm my way into his family. I didn't try to win him over. I just stood quietly next to David, doing my best impression of a scared little kid. Just then, Sophia finally made her entrance. She had obviously pulled herself together on the drive over. She wore a perfectly pleasant smile and was even carrying a cake she'd bought for me. "Dad, Mom, Ethan," she chirped, then came over and put a familiar arm around my shoulders. "Liam, look what I got you. Your favorite strawberry shortcake." She was trying to sell the image of a loving mother and son, but I subtly shifted away, moving behind David to avoid her touch. It was a small movement, but it was enough to make her smile freeze on her face. I saw the other walkers exchange thoughtful glances. The atmosphere turned awkward. Grandma Walker stepped in to break the tension. "All right now, the boy just got here. Let's not overwhelm him. Maria, why don't you show Liam to his room? It's all ready for him." The housekeeper, Maria, smiled and led me upstairs. My new room was huge, bigger than our entire old apartment, and filled with new things. "Do you like it, Master Liam?" Mrs. Walker and Mr. Walker picked everything out themselves, she said kindly. I nodded and whispered, "Thank you." I'd had this room in my first life, too. But back then, Sophia had insisted that boys shouldn't be spoiled, and she'd gradually removed all the nice things until it was just a bare bed and a desk. As I was lost in thought, Grandma Walker came in holding a brand new designer jacket. "Here, Liam, try this on. I bought it especially for you." It was a beautiful jacket, the kind of thing you see in magazines. In my first life, I had been thrilled to wear something so nice, but Sophia had berated me, saying it looked ridiculous on me, like a child playing dress-up. The next day, I found it cut to ribbons in the trash can. She told my grandparents I had ruined it by accident. Remembering this, I instinctively took a step back and shook my head. "Grandma, I can't wear this." "Why ever not? Don't you like it?" she asked, surprised. I twisted my fingers together and said meekly, "Sophia says new clothes get dirty too easily, and they cost a lot of money to replace if they get ruined. She says my old clothes are good enough." Grandma Walker's expression hardened. Sophia, who had been listening from the doorway, looked like she was about to explode. She hurried into the room, forcing a laugh. "What nonsense is he talking about? I was just trying to teach him the value of being frugal." Just then, Ethan, who had been silent until now, let out a short, sharp laugh from the doorway. He was leaning against the frame, arms crossed, a smirk on his face. "Frugal? That dress you're wearing, I saw it in a magazine last month. It's couture, isn't it? 6 figures." His one sentence made all of Sophia's excuses sound pathetic and hollow. The room fell completely silent. I don't think Sophia ever imagined the perfect image she'd built would start to crumble so quickly. And she certainly never expected that the first person to rip off her mask would be my stepbrother, Ethan. David and his parents looked deeply uncomfortable. It wasn't about the price of the dress. It was about Sophia's blatant hypocrisy. "Ethan, that's no way to speak to your mother," David said sternly, but his voice lacked any real anger. Sophia's face flushed. She knew anything she said would only make it worse, so she bit her lip, looked at David with wounded eyes, and let the tears well up. It was her go-to move, and it usually worked on men. Sure enough, David's expression softened. He sighed. "All right, Liam just got here. Let's drop it. It's time for dinner." The conflict was smoothed over, for now. The mood at the dinner table was tense. Sophia bustled around, serving everyone, trying to repair the damage. David and his parents were polite, but clearly distracted. Ethan spent the entire meal staring at his phone, acting completely uninterested. Meanwhile, I had become the center of attention. Grandma Walker kept piling food onto my plate, gently encouraging me to eat. "Liam's too skinny. He needs to put some meat on his bones," she said. Seeing her chance, Sophia also put a piece of steak on my plate, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Here, Liam, have some steak. It's your favorite." I looked at the steak and felt sick to my stomach. It wasn't the food. It was years of her voice in my head, telling me that eating too much would make me fat and ugly. She had conditioned me to feel repulsed by the very food I loved. I knew it was unhealthy, and I would have to unlearn it. But right now, I just couldn't eat it. I fought back the nausea and was about to move the steak aside when Sophia, as if anticipating my move, picked up a bowl of soup. "Here, Liam, have some soup. Be careful, it's hot." Her movements seemed natural, but just as she brought the soup bowl in front of me, her wrist tilted sharply, almost imperceptibly. The scalding soup came splashing directly at my face. She was trying to disfigure me. A scarred piece of baggage would be even easier for the walkers to hate. It happened so fast I had no time to react. Just as I braced for the searing pain, a powerful force shoved me sideways. Look out! It was Ethan. He must have dropped his phone at the last second, shoving me out of my chair just in time. I landed hard on the floor, but I was unhurt. He wasn't so lucky. He hissed in pain. The entire bowl of hot soup had splashed all over his arm. His white shirt sleeve was soaked, and the skin beneath was already turning an angry red. Ethan! Everyone stared in shock. The dining room erupted into chaos with shouts and the crash of falling dishes. Sophia was frozen in shock. She never in her wildest dreams imagined her carefully aimed attack would hit the family's golden boy. She scrambled over, dabbing at his arm with a napkin, babbling, "Ethan, I'm so sorry. It was an accident. My hand slipped. I swear I didn't mean to." Ethan, gritting his teeth in pain, slapped her hand away. "Get off me. Don't touch me," he roared, his eyes blazing with the fury of a cornered animal as he stared at her. And me? I sat there on the cold floor, watching the whole ridiculous scene unfold. Then I slowly looked up at David. In a small, quiet voice, I asked, "Mr. Walker, why did Mommy tilt the bowl toward my face like that when she was handing me the soup?" Everyone froze. David's face went dark. He whipped his head around to glare at Sophia, his eyes like daggers. Then, in a voice colder than ice, he turned to the housekeeper. "Maria, pull up the security footage from the dining room. I want to see exactly what just happened." The color drained from Sophia's face. She stared at David in horror, her lips trembling, unable to form a single word. Security cameras. How could she have forgotten? A house like this was covered in them for security. "David, what are you implying?" she stammered, making one last desperate attempt, her voice cracking. "You're going to believe a child over me? How could I possibly hurt Liam on purpose? He's my son. We'll see if it was intentional when we watch the footage, won't we?" David's voice was flat, his eyes like chips of ice. He helped me up from the floor, checked to make sure I was okay, then handed me to Grandma Walker, who had rushed into the room. Grandma Walker held me tight, her old hands patting my back as if I were a frightened bird. Maria was already helping Ethan to the bathroom to treat his burn, but before he left the room, he shot Sophia a look of pure, undisguised hatred. Sophia was in a full-blown panic. She lunged for David's arm, but he moved away. "David, please, let me explain. I really didn't." "Be quiet," David snapped, the first time he'd ever used such a harsh tone with her. "We'll talk after we've seen the video." A moment later, Maria returned with a tablet, the footage from the dining room already queued up. David hit play. On the screen, we saw Sophia walking toward me with the soup, a gentle smile on her face. It all looked perfectly normal. But just as she reached me, David slowed the video to half speed. And then everyone saw it clear as day. Her wrist made a distinct, deliberate downward tilting motion. It wasn't a slip. It was a calculated, precise move designed to splash the contents of the bowl directly into my face. If Ethan hadn't reacted so quickly, my entire face would have been scalded. The evidence was undeniable. The dining room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Sophia sank to the floor, her face the color of ash. She knew it was over. All her lies, all her carefully constructed facades, had been exposed as a joke. "Why?" David's voice trembled as he stared at the woman on the floor, as if she were a complete stranger. "Why would you do that? Liam is 7 years old. What could he have possibly done to deserve that?" I, Sophia stammered, her mind blank. "He is just a child. Your own son." David's voice boomed, his chest rising and falling with rage. "Sophia, what in God's name is wrong with you?" Grandpa Walker was so furious his hand on his cane was shaking. He pointed at Sophia, speechless, before finally letting out a heavy sigh. Grandma Walker held me close, her eyes red. When she looked at Sophia, all the previous warmth was gone, replaced by an icy chill. I buried my face in Grandma Walker's shoulder and let out small, choked sobs. Seeing me so terrified, David looked like his heart was breaking. He took a deep breath, as if making a final decision. "You'll sleep in the guest room tonight," he told Sophia. "And from now on, you are not to go near Liam without my permission." Sophia's face went white. She knew that everything she had worked so hard for was beginning to fall apart. That night, she was moved to the guest room. Grandma Walker herself carried me back to my room. She helped me into my pajamas, tucked me in, and sat on the edge of my bed. She sighed. "You poor thing. I'm so sorry, Liam. I should have seen what was happening. You've been through so much." I shook my head and took her hand. "It's okay, Grandma," I whispered. In the dim light, I could feel her love and regret. I knew, from that night on, my place in this family had fundamentally changed. The next morning when I came downstairs, Sophia was nowhere to be seen. Maria told me Mr. Walker had called her into his study first thing. Ethan was at the table drinking a glass of milk, his arm wrapped in bandages. When he saw me, he looked away, a little embarrassed, but I could see the tips of his ears were red. "Hey," I said, walking over to him. "Thanks for yesterday." He just grunted in response. Then he pushed a plate of toast with strawberry jam toward me. "Eat up, short stack. You'll never get any taller if you don't eat." His tone was still gruff, but it was a clear sign of acceptance. In my first life, he wouldn't have even looked at me. I sat down and started eating, feeling a sense of peace. Just then, the door to the study opened. Sophia emerged, her eyes red and her face pale and drawn. David followed close behind her, his expression like stone. When she saw me and Ethan eating breakfast together, a flash of pure hatred crossed her face before she quickly hid it. She walked over and knelt in front of me, forcing a smile. "Liam, I'm so sorry about yesterday. I wasn't thinking straight. Can you please forgive me?" I tightened my grip on my fork and said nothing. When she saw I wasn't responding, the tears started again. She turned to David, looking helpless. "David, you see? He's still angry with me. I know I was wrong. I'll do anything to change. For you, for our family." She put special emphasis on the word family. David's expression flickered, and for a moment, he seemed to soften. I scoffed internally. Here it comes, I thought. Her trump card. Sure enough, she pulled a piece of paper from her purse and handed it to David. Her voice trembled with a barely concealed triumph. "David, I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby." The news hit the room like a bomb. Grandpa and Grandma Walker were stunned. David took the paper, his expression a complex mask of emotions. Sophia watched him, a triumphant smile playing on her lips. She thought the baby was her ultimate protection, her get-out-of-jail-free card. With a Walker heir on the way, she believed she could be forgiven for anything. She even shot me a defiant look, as if to say, "See, you little brat, you can't win against me." David was silent for a long time, so long that Sophia's smile began to look strained. Finally, he spoke. "We will keep the baby." Sophia let out a breath of relief, but his next words sent a chill down her spine. "But you will move out. You will live somewhere else until the baby is born. I will hire the best staff to take care of you." He paused, then looked at me, his gaze firm. "As for Liam, he is staying here with us. You two will not see each other for the foreseeable future." David's decision was swift and final, leaving no room for argument. He was essentially putting Sophia under a form of house arrest, while completely cutting off her access to me. Sophia couldn't believe what she was hearing. All her triumphant scheming had turned to ash. "David, how can you do this to me? I'm pregnant with your child," she shrieked, losing control. "You're choosing an outsider over your own family?" "He is not an outsider," David cut her off coldly. "From the day I married you, he became my son, and you tried to destroy him." His eyes swept over her, filled with a disappointment so profound it was chilling. "Sophia, I'm giving you a chance. For the sake of our unborn child, don't waste it." Without another glance at her, he called for the driver to bring the car around. The Walker's security guards escorted her from the house. As the car pulled away, she stared at me through the window, her eyes filled with venom. I could read her lips clearly. "You little brat, just you wait." She didn't hate the man who was punishing her. She only hated me. I didn't understand why, but I knew this wasn't over. A woman backed into a corner only becomes more dangerous. I had to be careful if I wanted to survive. After Sophia was gone, life at the Walkers settled into a new rhythm. Grandma Walker personally oversaw my meals. Grandpa Walker told me stories about his life, and whenever David had a spare moment, he'd help me with my homework or build Lego sets with me. Even Ethan seemed to have flipped some kind of switch. He still complained that I was annoying, but whenever I got stuck on my math homework, he'd impatiently toss an answer key onto my desk. For the first time, it felt like I really had a family, but I couldn't let my guard down. I knew what Sophia was capable of. Sure enough, a few days later, trouble arrived on our doorstep in the form of Sophia's cousin. The moment she saw me, she grabbed my hand and started a dramatic performance. Oh, my poor cousin, all alone, pregnant, she can't eat, she can't sleep, she does nothing but cry all day. Liam, how could you be so cruel and break your mother's heart like this? She kept glancing at the Walkers to see how they were reacting. Grandma Walker looked annoyed, but was too polite to say anything. I pulled my hand away from the woman and looked up, my eyes wide and brimming with tears that I stubbornly refused to let fall. "Ma'am, I miss my mommy too," I choked out. "I have nightmares about her every night. I dream she's holding that bowl of soup, smiling and asking me, 'Liam, why don't you just die?'" As I spoke, I mimicked the exact way she had tilted her wrist that day. Then I wake up, and I'm so scared. I don't understand why she would want to hurt me. My words made the cousin's face go white. She clearly hadn't expected a 7-year-old to be so manipulative, to so perfectly turn the tables on her. The Walkers were looking furious. They were all clearly remembering the incident with the soup. Liam, you're talking nonsense, the cousin blustered, though she looked terrified. I'm not lying, I said, finally letting a tear fall. Could you ask her for me? Does she really hate me that much? Because if she does, I can leave. I can go back to foster care. That's enough. David slammed his hand on the table and stood up. He walked over, scooped me into his arms, and gave the woman an icy glare. Show our guest out. The 2 words were quiet, but held an authority that couldn't be denied. The cousin was quickly shown the door. David held me, patting my back gently, his voice thick with emotion. It's okay, Liam. I'm here. No one is ever going to hurt you again. I buried my face in his shoulder and sobbed. Dad, why doesn't Mommy love me? Part of the crying was an act, but the sadness behind the question was very, very real. I came from her body. We should have been the closest people in the world to each other. But she treated me like an enemy, like something she wished was dead. If that's how she felt, why did she even have me? I would never understand it, but I refused to waste any more energy trying. I was going to be happy with my new family. And Sophia? She could bring her worst. I'd be ready. A few days later, David got a phone call that made his face go grim. After he hung up, he called me into his study. Liam, we need to talk, he said, his expression serious. My stomach dropped. Your mother, he said, struggling with the words, has filed a lawsuit. She's suing for custody of you. Dad, I said, looking him straight in the eye, my voice steady. I don't want to go with her. He sighed and ruffled my hair. I know, son, and I won't let that happen. It's just, this could get messy for the family's reputation. Is it because Mommy is saying bad things about you on the internet? I asked, feigning innocence. He looked surprised. How did you know about that? I saw it on Ethan's tablet, I mumbled, looking at the floor. People are saying awful things about you and our family. I'm so sorry, Dad. This is all my fault. He looked both furious and heartbroken at my words. He pulled me into a hug. Don't be silly, Liam. None of this is your fault. This is a mess made by adults. After he calmed me down, he immediately got on the phone with his company's lawyers and PR team to prepare for the media storm Sophia was creating. But this time, before they could even make a move, the tide of public opinion turned dramatically. An anonymous account posted a video on Twitter. It was the security footage from the dining room, showing Sophia trying to throw hot soup in my face. There was no audio, but the slow-motion replay captured the vicious look on her face and her deliberate, cruel action perfectly. The video's title was simple and devastating. This is how a socialite treats her 7-year-old son. It was like dropping a bomb online. All the people who had been sympathizing with Sophia and attacking the Walkers were left speechless. The narrative flipped in an instant. OMG, that's his actual mother? Even a wicked stepmother wouldn't pull something like that. That poor kid could have been scarred for life. And the stepbrother who saved him? What a hero. I take back everything bad I said about the Walkers. This woman is pure evil. She's suing for custody? More like she wants to get him back, so she can finish the job and live her life without any baggage. The internet exploded with outrage against Sophia and concern for my safety. Her custody lawsuit became a national joke. Not only did she fail to get custody, she was brought in for questioning by the police on suspicion of child abuse. In the Walker study, everyone watched the video in stunned silence. David's face was grim. He looked at his head of PR. We didn't release this. The PR director nodded. No, sir. We checked. The IP address is foreign and untraceable. Everyone was mystified. Who was this anonymous person who had just saved their reputation? Only I knew the answer. I sat quietly in the corner, my expression carefully neutral. I was the one who had leaked the video. I'd used the computer skills my tutor had taught me to ask one of his friends overseas to post it anonymously. In this new life, I was going to protect my real family with my own 2 hands. Sophia became a public villain, despised by everyone. Her devoted mother persona was shattered, replaced with headlines calling her the monster mom of Beverly Hills. She didn't get custody. Instead, she got a police investigation for child endangerment. Because of her pregnancy, she avoided jail time for now, but she was placed under house arrest. The Walkers, far from having their reputation tarnished, were praised for David's protectiveness and Ethan's bravery. Everything seemed to have settled down, but a knot of anxiety remained in my stomach. I knew Sophia too well. She was the kind of person who never gave up, a monster who would do anything to get what she wanted. Now that she was ruined and cast out, what would she do to reclaim her prize? I found out late one night. I had a nightmare. I was back at the top of the stairs in my first life, seeing Sophia's cold, triumphant face as I fell. I woke up with a scream, drenched in a cold sweat. The room was dark, lit only by the pale moonlight outside. My throat was parched, so I decided to go downstairs for some water. The house was silent. Everyone was asleep. I tiptoed barefoot across the soft carpet. As I reached the landing, I smelled something strange. Smelled like gas and something burning. My heart hammered in my chest. In my first life, just before I died, I remembered her muttering something about a gas leak and an accident at the Walker's house. I was too far gone to understand it then, but now, a horrifying thought clicked into place. I didn't dare let the thought fully form. Holding my breath, I crept toward the kitchen. The door was slightly ajar, and I could see a faint, flickering light from inside. I peeked cautiously around the doorframe. A figure was crouched in front of the stove, trying to light something with a lighter. They were dressed all in black, with a hat and a mask covering their face. But I knew that silhouette. I would know it anywhere. It was Sophia. She had snuck back into the house. What was she doing? I clamped my hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. I watched as she opened the gas valve on the stove. The hissing sound was deafening in the silence. Then she pulled a small cloth bundle from her pocket, set it on the counter, and lit it on fire. The bundle quickly caught, sending up a plume of acrid smoke. As soon as it was lit, she turned and scurried out the back door like a rat. Her plan was clear. The smoke would knock everyone out. Then, once the gas filled the house, the small fire would ignite it. The entire mansion would explode. Everyone would die in their sleep. And she, the sole survivor and grieving widow, would inherit everything. A perfect plan to kill everyone and eliminate any loose ends. My blood ran cold. The woman was completely insane. Couldn't panic. I had to think. Call 911? They wouldn't get here in time. The house was full of rugs and curtains. The fire would spread in minutes. Yell for help? My voice was too small. They might not even hear me upstairs. My eyes scanned the living room and landed on the giant grandfather clock. It was Grandpa Walker's favorite antique, and it was set to chime loudly every morning at 6. I looked at the time. It was 11:58 p.m. I looked back at the growing flames and the thick, black smoke pouring from the kitchen. My heart was pounding. I ran to the clock, stood on my toes, and used every ounce of my strength to push the heavy minute hand forward. Faster, I thought, faster. The second the hand hit the 6, I slammed the mechanism. The loud, booming chimes shattered the silence of the night, echoing through the entire house. The sudden noise jolted everyone awake. What's happening? Why is the clock going off? I heard David and Ethan's confused voices from upstairs, followed by the sound of running feet. A moment later, they smelled the smoke. Fire! Everyone get out! The house erupted into panicked activity. I used the chaos to my advantage, running to Ethan and throwing my arms around him, pretending to be terrified. Ethan, I'm scared. Sophia's reign of terror was over. The sirens of fire trucks and police cars screamed through the quiet, wealthy neighborhood. The Walkers stood on the lawn, wrapped in blankets, watching in shock as smoke poured from their home. The fire was contained quickly, and the damage was mostly limited to the kitchen, which was completely destroyed. The fire department quickly determined the cause: arson, combined with an open gas line. This wasn't an accident. It was attempted murder. Has your family had a falling out with anyone recently? A police officer asked. David's face was dark with fury. He didn't have to say a word. Everyone in the family was thinking the same name, Sophia. Just then, one of the security guards ran over and whispered something in David's ear. David's eyes narrowed. He turned to the officer. Officer, I think you'll want to see the security footage from our back gate. The footage was pulled up quickly. It clearly showed a figure in black, face obscured by a hat and mask, sneaking in the back door shortly before the fire started. 10 minutes later, the same figure was seen running out and getting into a car parked down the street before speeding away. You couldn't see her face, but David recognized the car instantly. The police ran the plates. Less than an hour later, they found Sophia in a rented apartment across town. She was still wearing the black clothes from that night, apparently so confident in her plan that she hadn't even bothered to get rid of the evidence. With the video and the clothes, she had no defense. When the police brought her back to the house, she saw us all standing on the lawn. Her eyes scanned the crowd and locked onto me. Her gaze was a toxic mix of hatred, resentment, and a wild, unhinged madness I couldn't comprehend. She suddenly burst into hysterical laughter, pointing a shaking finger at me. "David, you fool!" she screamed. You think he's some innocent little angel? He's a monster. He's the one who did this. He set me up. No one paid any attention to the ravings of a lunatic. The police pushed her into the squad car, and her shrill laughter faded as they drove away. I knew she was facing the harshest punishment the law could provide. Arson, attempted murder, multiple counts. The pregnancy, it turned out, was also a lie, so there would be no leniency. Her long, destructive farce was finally over. She would spend the rest of her life rotting in a prison cell. David came over and knelt down, pulling me into a tight hug. It's over now, Liam. You're safe. While the house was being repaired after the fire, we moved in with my grandparents at their old estate. It was a beautiful old house with a sprawling garden, and it felt more like a home than the modern mansion ever had. With Sophia gone, my life was finally truly peaceful. David officially adopted me. My name was legally changed to Liam Walker. On the new birth certificate, his name was printed in the space for father. The day the papers came through, he took me to Disneyland. We rode the carousel and ate cotton candy, and for the first time, he felt just like a regular dad. Ethan started high school and became one of the most popular guys in his class, constantly getting messages from girls on Instagram. But he still came home every day and, without fail, checked my homework and brought me snacks or new video games, his own awkward way of showing he cared. One day I asked him, "Ethan, why did you push me out of the way that day?" He was in the middle of a video game and didn't even look up. Duh. Was I supposed to just sit there and watch you get your face melted off? He paused his game for a second and added, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. Besides, you're my brother. Who else is gonna protect you? The sun streamed through the window, lighting up his face, and I felt a warmth spread through my chest. My eyes started to burn. I asked him the question I'd been wondering about for 2 lifetimes. Why are you all so nice to me? You dad, grandpa, and grandma. I'm not even related to you. Ethan ruffled my hair. I had a little sister, Maya. If she were still alive, she'd be about your age now. She and my mom were in an accident, an avalanche, when they were on a ski trip, something our family never really got over. And then you came along. It felt right to take care of you. Seeing the tears in my eyes, he quickly added, "Hey, it's not like you're a replacement or anything. We're just glad you're here, man. We're happy we could help you." I nodded, and this time I let myself cry for real. I knew that. I never felt like a replacement. Their love for me was real, and I was happy to be there for David, Ethan, and my grandparents, for Maya and the mother I'd never get to meet. Years passed. I got into a great college. After I graduated, I went to work for Walker Industries, starting in an entry-level position. David never gave me any special treatment, but whenever I hit a wall, he was always there to offer advice. Not as my father, but as a mentor. After a few years of hard work, I was promoted to department head. Then, on my 25th birthday, David Walker formally announced at a board meeting that I would be the next CEO of Walker Industries. The news sent a shockwave through the room. One of the old guard board members objected. "He's not a Walker by blood. On what grounds does he inherit the company?" David didn't say a word. He just looked at me and smiled. But Ethan was the first one on his feet. He walked over, clapped me on the shoulder, and addressed the room. "He inherits it on the grounds that his name is Liam Walker, and he's my brother. And on the grounds that in the last few years, he's created more value for this company than any of you. If anyone has a problem with that," he added with a smirk, "you can take it up with me, or we can just compare your department's numbers to his." He was the same as he'd always been, bold, confident, and always in my corner. In that moment, looking out at the sea of shocked, jealous, and admiring faces, with my family standing right beside me, I thought about that scared, hopeless little boy in that tiny apartment so long ago. If he could see me now, I think he would be really happy. In this second life, I didn't just get revenge. I found a family and a love I never knew was possible. I finally won back the life that was supposed to be mine all along.